you ever imagine how life would be if you couldn't see or hear what was going on around you? Hi, I'm Riyaaz Safi on Thinking Out Loud. Please show your support by subscribing, sharing, and commenting on the podcast on your preferred platform so that we may continue to grow and you don't miss a new episode when it's released. On today's episode, I've invited a friend of mine to join me on the show who will share his own story with us, which will certainly inspire you. Welcome to Thinking Out Loud, Sanjay Bhimjee.
Thanks, Riyaaz. Pleasure to be with you and chatting to you once again.
Sanjay, I find you to be a great source of inspiration. I basically invited you to the podcast Thinking Out Loud for you to share your story and inspire people listening to this podcast. Unravel the mystery. Who is Sanjay Bhimjee?
Sanjay Bhimjee, I think, is a work in progress. I'm still trying to find myself. But I was born in Durban. Mm-hmm. And I think 3 days after my birth, the doctor, in fact, he deemed me blind eventually. Well, 3 days later, of course.
You've been disabled and in particular blind since birth, like you confirmed right now. So growing up you must have experienced some sort of anger or resentment towards the world and the people around you. How did you actually deal with the situation at that time?
I'm not sure about anger or even resentment because I never saw before. I knew of other people who have seen. Yes. And for me, everything seemed very normal. It didn't seem like a different world to me because I could hear everyone's voices. We did a lot of things together when growing up, like playing hide, you seek, and all the kinds of games that you would normally play as well. Obviously, notwithstanding the lack of sight.
And are there some fond memories that come to mind about those young growing up days in Durban?
I think being at school at the age of 5 years old, going to boarding school, was something I cherish, and the fact that I got to meet so many other people who were blind and had other challenges as well. Going to boarding school really toughens you up. It teaches you a whole lot of lessons like fairness, lessons like being able to share with other people, lessons also about camaraderie and being with other people and getting familiar with other people's perspectives as well.
Now that must have got you into good books with certain people in terms of becoming friends, and I'm sure those people are friends with you up until today.
Yeah, we maintain those bonds. There's certain people that we maintain bonds with. Obviously, people are different, and there are certain people you often, because of your personality, will be attracted to or lean towards, in terms of friendship.
What sorts of people do you find yourself being attracted to when you look for a friend? What is it that you look for in a friend? Is it loyalty? Is it someone that can listen to you? Is it someone that doesn't judge you for who you are? What is some of the things that Sanjay Bhimjee looks for?
I think all of the above. And also someone who, for some reason, I have a tendency to be for the underdog. The kind of person who doesn't have it all, who's not completely or doesn't think of themselves as they have it all, and someone who's always searching. I think that would be one quality. Someone who is a searcher, someone who thinks beyond, who goes beyond the extra mile when it comes to thinking, who doesn't take things at face value, but searches, and someone who's able to soul search, introspection, someone who's not boastful. Those are, I think, the qualities I'd look for.
Now, the lockdown is, of course, now that you've spoken about those things like soul searching, finding yourself, in other words, and also then attracting to people who have similar principles and ideals like you have. So during the lockdown, there must have been a lot you've learned about yourself as well. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you've learned about Sanjay Bhimjee?
Okay, top of mind, I think, would be resilience and the fact that imagine a plane about to crash,
Yes.
and you jumping off a plane thinking you don't have a parachute, but you actually do. What I mean by that is the tremendous support that I didn't know I had, but eventually found I did have after COVID-19 and a whole lot of other things that happened after that as well. So that was one of the things I learned about myself, resilience, and I think support, the tremendous amount of support that there is good as well that can come out of something not so good, maybe.
Certainly. Very, very, that's something I've learned as well. I mean, personally, during the lockdown period, I've lost someone very close to me as well, who's my mom. And of course, it's amazing how, as a person, there's so much resilience within you and hope for a better tomorrow. So I guess these situations grow you as a person, don't they?
Yeah, and that's why at the initially I did say a work in progress. We all, I think, are work in progress as well.
Always bettering yourself. Now, as a blind person, you must be finding yourself in awkward situations with people. Of course, lots of them may be feeling you sorry, but are there any funny moments when you sit back there and think, that was funny?
Interesting. I didn't know that you were going to ask me this, but immediately something comes to mind.
Yes.
I was working at the SABC, and we had to get up. I needed to get to the SABC, and then we were rushing. My friend, well, we ran down to the car, and I opened the passenger door. He opened the driver's door, and I sat, not realizing that when I did sit, there was something squelching under me. It was his sandwich, his neatly packed baked beans and chutney and soya sandwiches, which I sat on.
Wow. How did you feel
And
after that?
you don't want to know. Walking into well, having to clean up and dry off, and the embarrassment of actually getting to SABC in the foyer wasn't exactly the best experience. But
Well,
we laughed it off eventually.
of course you will, because I guess those are the moments that you'll remember for life and that define such moments that we have in life. Now, I know the real Sanjay Bhimjee. He's feisty, like you said, has a wacky sense of humor, and also stands up for himself amongst all odds. Did you ever find yourself getting into trouble because you stood up for what you believed in?
I think a few, I think countless of times
Yes.
getting into trouble because I was fairly outspoken on a number of things. People didn't necessarily agree with what I had to say, which cost me dearly. Um, there were certain times as well where I'd stick up for friends as well
Mm.
and get into trouble with that as well. But I still believe that if you do have a moral compass, which I've been taught at school and through my experiences, you stick to that moral compass, stick to your guns, and you need to stick or make sure that you stick to what you believe, but at the same time, not criticize other people for their beliefs as well. And you were talking about non-judgmentalism,
Yes.
to be non-judgmental, but speak your mind without any kind of fear. And I think we all working in the radio industry need probably to do that without fear or favor and objectivity as well when it comes to reporting.
Would you call yourself a troublemaker, perhaps?
Well, I've been called many things. Some of them have been four-letter words, but we won't go there.
Of course
Troublemaker, yeah.
not.
I don't think myself as troublemaker, but I think,
I mean, a perception, that's what I meant.
yeah,
It creates a perception. Like, I mean, I'm also one of those people that,
yes,
I'll tell you as it is. And lots of
yeah.
people are like, and people like, yeah, so take it easy, bro. And I'm like, no, but that's how I feel. And I tell you exactly how I feel about things. And like it or lump it.
I think very often people stick to their comfort zones because it's safer. And people don't want to kind of rock the boat because then they would be exposed.
Of course.
And it feels much safer to keep quiet and to accept whatever is happening. But remaining in a comfort zone will never let you oh, let you get to learn things
And grow
about
as well.
yourself, about other people, and grow. Yes,
Yeah. Now, you spoke a bit about the radio thing earlier. Radio is a great passion of yours. And when did you first join the radio industry, and how did it happen?
I joined the radio. I joined radio in my mind. They say radio is a theater of the mind. So I joined radio at the age of 6 when I got to listen to Jet Jungle. Now, you probably may not remember or know who Jet
No,
Jungle
I
is,
don't.
but
I
just
don't.
for people who don't, it was the radio version of Superman.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So there was this Jet Jungle who was known as the fittest man on Earth with his black leopard Jupiter and a guy called Spaghetti. Yeah. So I started listening to radio drama. That's how I actually got into getting familiar with radio. Eventually growing up with radio and even hiding my tape recorder at school under my books and recording all the stories, all the dramas during the day that happened on radio when I was supposed to be studying. So once I actually got caught and my radio was confiscated.
Oh, did you
Yeah.
eventually get
And
it
I missed
back?
the drama for the entire term.
Oh, for the entire term. Okay, so that answers the question. At the end of the term, you got it back.
The
Hmm.
radio industry. Um, I was standing at a call box, totally bored out of my mind. I had a 50-cent piece in my hand. I called a radio station that opened up for Diwali and asked if if the manager could give me a position on radio. He asked me to come over the following day and asked me if I was able to read news. I said yes, and the rest, I suppose, is history. I've
Which
been on um, various community radio stations along with SABC and did a stint at 702 as well over the last 2 decades.
If I may ask, which radio station was that gave you that opportunity to come on and after you giving them a
It
call?
was it was Light FM in Durban. It was opened for Diwali in Overport City.
Oh, wow.
Hmm. And then, of course, at university, worked at campus radio, Ordwax at UDW, now UKZN.
So you must have gathered a lot of these memorable moments. How about sharing some of them with us while being a radio presenter or working in the radio field?
I think there were so many moments, and you can probably relate to this. So many amusing moments, so many sad moments as well. You kind of share a slice of your life with other people, and I think especially for me, it was the opportunity and being blessed to get a peek into other people's lives. Along a lot of the time, we'd come up with topics on air, and people would be very responsive in terms of sharing their lives with you, and that in itself is a privilege to be able to change the way people feel. Even if you touch one person, you've made a difference.
And I guess that's why, I mean, people tell me, yes, these days you have Apple Music, you've got Spotify, you've got YouTube, you've got all these things happening. But at the end of the day, radio still remains a relevant source of entertainment. And like you say, it's a theater of mind. What, in your opinion, will be the future of radio in years to come?
Looking at radio present, firstly, I think there's a lot that radio needs to play catch up on because of all the media that you've been talking about, television, all of that. But the thing about radio is very intimate. When someone's talking to you, it's almost like they're talking to you, to one person. If they are able to do that. The future of radio, though, I think I somehow believe that, and this is purely a subjective thing, that we need more radio drama. I think people need to be more creative in terms of radio and the things they produce on radio, producers and presenters as well. We do have a situation where, well, the economy is not good, where when it comes to payment, people aren't getting paid as they should. Now, this isn't limited to radio. This is limited to actor craft. It's limited to television, to many uh, organizations. But radio, I think definitely people need to be more creative in the industry, and definitely a radio drama.
Radio drama is something you think will get the people back and listening and excited about radio. Now, coming back to disability.
Mm. Just in terms of being able to think and to close your eyes and let your imagination kind of run, because very often with a radio and a voice, you kind of get your own image of how someone looks, or how some
you just
yeah.
hit a nail on the head. I must be honest with you. When I used to listen to the radio when I was young as well, and you had this image of singers and the presenters, and then when you see them in real life, you're like, is that
hopefully
you?
It's a good experience.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to mention names, but I was very, very heartbroken lots of times, because I'm a bad judge when it comes to judging someone's voice versus the way they might look in real life. And there was lots of moments where I was hugely disappointed, but we won't get into that right now. So, coming back to disability, what are some of the challenges that you have personally faced as a blind person living in South Africa?
Oh, one of the challenges would, of course, be training. I think training for various kinds of vocations, jobs. Mm-hmm. The other would be equipment. Very often, equipment costs, a hand and a leg, or will cost you a hand and a leg. Jaws, for example, would be 18,000. In order to get a job, you need jaws, and the employer very often wouldn't employ you because of the cost factor that's involved. Transport is another challenge as well. In terms of getting around the city, there are many, though, blind people who are able to do that, who are able to get beyond those challenges and get from point A to point B as well. But those, I think, are the main challenges. Also, unemployment. Well, unemployment is a challenge for everyone, but I think very much more so for someone who is blind or has a certain challenge.
Sanj, the question, the word that's lost me a little bit there, and for people listening as well, what exactly is JAWS?
JAWS is a screen reading software that, so you switch on your computer and JAWS would read everything on the screen for you. It can navigate the internet and all kinds of applications.
Okay, now having said that, there's been a lot of progress that's been made in terms of audio description as well when you're watching movies. I mean, I've called you a few times and Sanj, what you doing? I was up at 5 this morning catching up on series. And do you agree that there's been some progress made as well?
Yes, definitely has been some progress made. There's also some progress made with JAWS, because there are free software that's available now on the net that you can download. But getting back now to the whole thing of audio describe, there's a website that describes most of the movies that you've probably watched over the years as well. Things like Game of Thrones, Roots, there's White Tiger. There's a whole lot of movies now that you can actually watch. So I'm at the moment playing catch up with I never watched Titanic and all the kinds of movies that Barban, for example. Well, I watched it a while ago, but I think you and many others influenced me to get into kind of Indian movies. And now there's audio describe for Indian movies, as well as the translation as well. So getting into that.
So, oh wow, that's absolutely amazing. I wasn't aware of that. So progress being made as well. What are some perceptions that you wish people would change about blind people?
That we can talk. Firstly.
Okay, yeah.
Just to give you an example, very often working at the station, someone would walk in and they'd always assume that the other person sitting with me is going to conduct the interview, firstly.
Yes.
And the second thing is when they hear that someone who's visually impaired is going to be conducting the interview, people are extremely nervous, thinking, can he do it? Can he interview me? And what questions is he going to ask? And how is he going to interview me? Some people actually walked out because they realized that I was going to be the one that's going to do the interview. So, yeah. So those are some of the perceptions. Also, that you can't hear. Very often, people assume that you're hard of hearing and speak louder to you than normal.
Yeah.
The other would be odd questions that people ask you, like, "How do you go on holiday? Oh, do you have friends? Um, Give me your phone because you don't need it because you don't get too many calls."
You kidding?
Yeah, so those are some of the things that perceptions and things that people ask. But I think that's changing. I'm glad to say it's changing. Fortunately, most people I'm with are not or don't have those kinds of perceptions.
Certainly, and I mean that was one of the main reasons for having this chat as well, is to clear those perceptions and say, "Hey, you're a great source of inspiration." I mean, I know you for many years, and you've been a great source of inspiration to me personally as well, because, like you say, you always you're a great person to have a conversation with. We can talk about things and argue about things and discuss things in a mature way, and I'm absolutely grateful and inspired by the way you carry yourself. So well done to you, and I'm hoping to all the people listening to this podcast of Thinking Out Loud who would feel inspired and go out there and make a difference, and go out and make things happen for yourself. Sanjay, firstly, thank you so much for taking the time out to chat to us right here on Thinking Out Loud. Certainly, it's been most inspirational, and I love the sandwich story. It's going to stick with me for years to come. Uh,
No pun intended about stick, baked beans.
yes. How about leaving us with one quote you live your life by?
Before I actually do that, I must say that uh, throughout the years, I've been blessed with many friends, many people I've learned from you, especially with Bollywood, but not just Bollywood, just a whole lot of things that I've learned from you as well. So thanks to you, and thanks to all the people I've learned from. Very often we have good and bad experiences, but each experience makes you eventually grow. In terms of the quotes that we're going to end off with, if you ain't making waves, you ain't kicking hard enough.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sanjay Bhimjee.
Riyaaz, as always, a Titanic thank you to you as well.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe and share. Till the next episode, ciao for now.